When I was a kid, I remember a certain teen show being like all of the rage. Blake Lively was everywhere and everyone was talking about her hair, her fashion, kind of like how they were this year, but in not as positive of a way. There was drama with the cast. The show was scandalous and everything was super scandalous about it. The fashion was everything and it was just everywhere. I was too young at the time to really pay attention to the show or acknowledge it. And at the time, I just didn't really have the interest in it. I didn't really get into the CW until I started watching Supernatural and The Vampire Diaries and The 100 and The Secret Circle. I love that show. And Arrow. And The Flash a little bit, although I was more into Arrow than The Flash. But as I got older, I got more interested in seeing certain things at least once when they were impactful in some shape, way, or form on movies, on TV shows, like something that like changed the trajectory or changed the path. Otherwise, like if I didn't have that same kind of interest or passion, I never would have seen The Exorcist. So this teen show that revolutionized teen shows moving forward, I was interested in seeing. And that show was Gossip Girl. Honestly, the first time I watched it, I was not expecting a lot. I was not really expecting to like it. None of that. And then I fell in love with it. I became super enthralled with the characters, the story, the setting. Yes, even the fashion and the style. And I'm not a fashion or style kind of girl. Like, that's just not my vibe. But I loved it. I couldn't wait to see Blair's next outfit, Serena's next outfit. Although Serena's outfits, I don't know why, but especially upon second watch, her hair being everywhere is just a little too distracting for me. I love Blair's fashion. Blair's fashion is my kind of girl. Like, that is, love it. The show was fun, it was ridiculous, and at times it was even thrilling. So, season 1 centers around Serena van der Woodsen. Her story is what drives the plot for the entire first season. Her story of redemption and self-discovery heavily mirrors the other characters' journeys, and it pushes them forward in their own stories. She is the anchor and the driving force for authenticity and depth. And then after season 1, the show just kind of flatlined. Not the best. But before I dive into why I don't like the other seasons, let's dive into the story of season 1 and I can fully explore where the drama grows organically, and maybe you'll see why I enjoy the first season so much. Also, don't mind me, I had a lot of thoughts, so I have my laptop here with all of my notes, and I clicked on something I wasn't supposed to. Yay! So as I said, in season 1, we're introduced to Serena van der Woodsen. She is the golden girl of the Upper East Side, and she's returning to New York after a mysterious disappearance. Immediately, the show starts with a question: why? And to extend that question, why did she leave? As she re-enters her life, we are introduced to the other characters. There is Blair Waldorf, Serena's best friend, biggest rival, and she thrives on control, scheming, and accessorizing. I wore this headband in honor of Blair. I think she'd approve. She probably wouldn't because it was like $5. Nate Archibald. This is the Deep's origin story. Kidding. I just can't. Ever since I saw The Boys, I can't look at Nate. I can't look at him. Nope. Instantly creepy to me. But we start off with seeing him as Blair's boyfriend. He has a deeply conflicted relationship with his family. Chuck Bass. The walking red flag. He is entirely too rich and too bored, and he thrives on chaos. Dan Humphrey. He is the Brooklyn outsider who thinks himself too good for the elite, while he is also desperately throwing himself in the middle. Jenny Humphrey. She is Dan's little sister, and she is absolutely desperate to fit in with the elite, and she quickly learns that there is consequences to her ambitions. When we meet Blair, she is thriving in Serena's absence. She is the most popular girl at school. She's the queen bee, and she has her boyfriend that she's been engaged to since like they were little itty bitty children. But Nate has been acting strange. Oh, let me retract that. She wasn't engaged to Nate. They've just been dating since they're itty bitty, and everyone expected them to get engaged and to get married and thought they were like the, ultimate thing. But anyways, Nate has been acting strange recently, and he only gets stranger upon Serena's return. Dan and Serena have a meet cute at the hotel that she's currently staying in, and it quickly blossoms into something very romantic. And Jenny begins to really strive to try and get into Blair's clique. Blair eventually learns that right before Serena left, Serena and Nate slept together. This is revealed in front of Dan, and he instantly becomes wary of becoming romantically involved with Serena. Nate doesn't break up with Blair, and Blair doesn't break up with Nate because she's just very determined to hold on to him. And just as all this is happening, Jenny's efforts work, and she gets into Blair's circle. Due to anger and jealousy, because there's a whole, it's not just Nate and everything, but there's a whole subplot of trying to get into colleges and stuff, Ivy League colleges, and Serena's just much more charming, which I can definitely see. Serena's definitely more go with the flow and really fun and everything, and Blair's just very robotic. And so due to all of that drama plus a Nate drama, Blair teams up with Chuck, and they see Serena entering a rehab. They use those pictures to be like, she goes to rehab, she has a drug problem, she has a drinking problem, which she did, but we'll go into that later. But that's not the reason why she's entering the rehab. She's entering the rehab because her little brother Eric is in rehab for trying to unalive himself, and that is why she came back from boarding school after disappearing for a while. And she covers for Eric so that way his name won't be tarnished. Eric goes and confronts Blair and reveals that's actually him. And Blair is humbled for the first time that we see. And during all of this chaos, we start to really get involved with the parents of these kids, because Serena and Dan are starting to see each other more and starting to show interest. Serena's mother, Lily, realizes that Dan's father, Rufus, is someone that we don't really know what exactly is going on, but they definitely do have history. They're everything for them is just going to get a lot more interesting real quick. Blair and Serena eventually start to mend their friendship, with Blair's mother Eleanor trying to cause some scandalous issues, because Blair's mother Eleanor has her own fashion line and she recruits her daughter to model for her, but then she likes the way Serena models instead and tries to trick Serena into being the main model, and without telling Blair, and it causes a whole thing that eventually gets overlooked or whatever. It's just a little subplot, but it's one of those things where we're starting to see that part of the reason why Serena and Blair have a complicated friendship is that Serena ends up somehow, some way, always getting chosen over Blair, even with her own mother. During this, Serena and Dan find another rift in their budding romance, and because they come from entirely different worlds, and Dan just can't seem to understand Serena's elite classist world, and it doesn't really show too much of her being in his life too much. As far as other than certain plot points, she goes and hangs out at his dad's place with him, and she doesn't seem to mind the homeliness and the fact that it's small and intimate and not grand and living in a hotel like her mother and her brother are currently. So I think she's a lot less judgy than him when it comes to the lifestyle, but he definitely starts to really judge her for certain things. Jenny gets invited to one of Blair's infamous parties. She makes a social taboo and finds herself at Blair's mercy. And it exposes the fact that the elite are very quick to invite you in, but they are also very quick to throw you to the wolves. Then things get further complicated by Dan's best friend, Vanessa, who he had a crush on a year ago, returns. And this causes a rift with Serena and Dan, because he's telling Vanessa Vanessa all of these intimate things about his thoughts and feelings and stuff, and he's not telling Serena, which pisses me off. Hello. During a party, Jenny accidentally tricks Nate into revealing that he's still in love with Serena. She uses it as leverage to climb up the social ladder, which good on you, Jenny, but god damn. Lily and Rufus show up to an event as dates because Lily is currently trying to get with Chuck's father, Bart, and Bart was cheating on her with younger women, and so she got upset. So she goes to a party with Rufus to make Bart jealous, which ends up working. Serena and Dan finally take the next step in their relationship and they actually learn to trust each other. And then we finally see Chuck, who has just been causing chaos throughout this entire part of the season so far. We finally start to see some of his insecurities because he gets a business idea and he tries to show it off to his dad. This business idea is also like a nightclub kind of thing, like it's a strip club, burlesque, like it's a burlesque club, okay? But he gets this idea and he wants to invest in it, and his dad dismisses him and makes him pretty damn insecure pretty quickly. And his dad is like ruthless about it, and so not fun. We also start to discover Nate and his father, called Captain. I can already see where the storyline's going when your dad is like, I'm the captain. Okay, cool. But it starts to blow up because the captain has a drug addiction. And the captain, when he is discovered to have a drug addiction, he blames it on his fucking son. And he also has terrible business practices, but we'll learn more about that later. Blair and Nate end up breaking up because Nate is still in love with Serena and just not interested in Blair. And Blair impulsively goes to Chuck's failed business opportunity and she participates in the burlesque event, and they realize that they have an attraction with one another, and they end up sleeping with each other in the back of Chuck's limo. I know it's very specific that I said that, but it's because Chuck brings it up all the time. Dan and Jenny's mom, Allison, ends up returning home after being estranged and after hooking up with her neighbor in her new apartment away from the family. But Jenny manages to bring Allison home, and that makes things real awkward real quick, especially because Rufus is very much into Lily. Serena and Vanessa end up bonding finally, coincidentally at Blair's birthday party, where Blair is actively ignoring Chuck and expecting Nate, who she just broke up with, to give her a phone call to wish her happy birthday, which, girl, no. But this only foreshadows that Blair and Serena's friendship fractures again over Thanksgiving, and this causes Serena and her family to go to the Humphreys, which causes a whole bunch of drama because that's when the kids discover that Lily, Allison, and Rufus are in a love triangle, or were when they were younger, and they still kind of are because maybe Allison left for a little bit and then maybe Rufus and Lily reconnected, but Lily is a little too attached to continuing her, like, what she grew up with, which is like continuing her social standing and not following her heart. And Allison's just fucking stupid. I hate her. So Serena's family ends up and Blair's father for Thanksgiving doesn't show up for Thanksgiving, and so Blair is really hurt, and her mom tricks her either on purpose or just, I don't know, it was like a weird thing. But Blair has ED. She has an ED, and she has a break on Thanksgiving due to everything. Serena comes and saves her. Blair goes to the Humphreys' apartment, witnesses everything. It's like, oh my god. And then Serena, Eric, and Lily and Blair go to like a restaurant to eat fries for Thanksgiving, and then Blair eventually ends up leaving or something along those lines. It's a really cute episode. I actually really enjoy it. Blair reunites with her mother and they bond over pie, and like it's adorable. It's like one of the few episodes where I really enjoy how they build up the kids and their parents' like relationships. It's really cute. This leads into Serena getting roped into going into the cotillion ball by her manipulative grandmother, who tells her that she has cancer, which she might. It's kind of implied at the end. But the grandmother is also trying to get Dan to leave Serena because she doesn't think that Dan is suitable for Serena. And apparently this is something that she did to Rufus and Lily, but she went to Lily with the offer to leave Dan, which Lily took. But Dan doesn't take the grandmother's offer, and Serena ends up also finding out and chooses Dan over the grandmother. Also, fucking Winter Soldier is in Gossip Girl, and he keeps like reappearing at random times, and he's like kind of a douchebag. And my man Bucky, okay, listen, I know that probably during the Gossip Girl era you were in your Winter Soldier mind controlled mode, but like, what the hell? Kidding. During all of this, Jenny and her mother Allison are starting to really butt heads because Jenny is very determined to get into the elite social circle, and her mother just wants her to attend her art gallery opening and wants her to be home and be a normal teenager and not be part of like these rich kids' insanity. But Jenny's like, then you shouldn't have sent me to this school, which like fair point, because like the school isn't just like, if you wanted her to just have a normal education, you would just send her to a regular public school, but you sent her to this private school to make connections, and that's what she's doing. I really don't like Allison. And then Blair gets really pissed off with Chuck because Chuck keeps trying to not avoid telling Nate that he slept with his ex-girlfriend, and Nate is now showing interest again in Blair because she's has her single glow and everything, and also she's having the lovely she's having spiciness with Chuck on a regular basis, and so she has her single glow, and she's also having her spiciness glow, and Nate really likes that. And as Nate tries to get closer to Blair, Chuck is trying to keep Nate away from Blair because he's jealous, and Blair is getting annoyed because Chuck is jealous and they're not together, and she also still loves Nate. So it turns into a whole thing where Chuck really fucks up, and Blair ends up going to Nate, and they end up having spicy time. And Blair's life only gets better because her father comes home for the holidays, but he also brings his boyfriend, and so that's not fun for her. Serena's world is also getting rocked because while she's trying to find the perfect gift for Dan, and he doesn't like monetary type of gifts or materialistic things, which is the only thing she knows how to give, but Serena's world is also getting rocked because one, Lily is now engaged to Bart, so which means that when they get married, Chuck will be her stepbrother. And Dan is also struggling because he's also trying to find the perfect gift for Serena while she's losing her mind over this family revelation. And the drama just continues to escalate when Allison's neighbor calls the fucking house looking for her on Christmas or like Christmas Eve or something. And as all this petty drama is happening, things start to escalate into pretty severe real world kind of not just petty drama consequences. There's a pool party. They're all drinking and doing drugs. A boy slips into the pool and hits his head. So this threatens the entire class to get expelled. This freaks out Dan because he can't afford this. He's paying attention to the fact that Serena, Blair, Chuck, and Nate, even though they hate each other at the moment, or like they kind of mildly hate each other, whatever, it's something along those lines. But because like there's a whole side story of Chuck being like, I'll tell Nate about us fucking. Blair's like, no, please don't. And he goes, well, then don't kiss him until I'm over you. And that's not gonna end well at all. But anyways, but they all like work together, and like they know like this is kind of a pretty standard routine, and Nate is freaked out by this. Also, Vanessa is currently following Dan around and recording on her camcorder for like a short film school project or some shit, and she ends up recording Blair and Chuck talking about their spiciness. And all of this drama starts to cause a lot of stress on Dan and Serena's relationship and starts to expose more cracks. Gossip Girl ends up catching Serena buying pregnancy tests and posts that she's pregnant, or it asking if she's pregnant. She takes a social blow because she's actually buying them for fucking Blair because Blair's missed her period and she might be pregnant and she doesn't know if it's Nate or Chuck. Like, homegirl, what are you doing? This eventually causes walking red flag Chuck to get pissed, and he ends up texting Gossip Girl about the fact that Blair slept with 2 different guys in the same weekend. And Nate gets pissed, punches the shit out of Chuck, rejects Blair, and goes into hiding because his family's also imploding. Blair is getting shamed left and right because she's been walking Virgin Mary for like years, and now everyone's calling her out on her hypocrisy. And Chuck is also not interested, and so she tries to run away by doing the same thing that Serena did, but Serena manages to stop her and convinces her to stay. But nobody really has time to think about the fact that their friend group just imploded because dun da da da, things are getting very serious with the return of Georgina Sparks. Who is Georgina Sparks, you ask? Oh, let me tell you. So she is an old bestie of Serena, like kind of on the level of bestie that Blair and Serena are. But Georgina embellished Serena's wild side, aka Serena's alcoholism and drug addiction. And this causes the show from going from being a petty drama, like pseudo reality show kind of thing, to a very, very serious, almost like mystery thriller, because you don't know what the hell's gonna happen next because Georgina is insane. Like, there's still petty drama happening. Like, Jenny and Blair are bickering over being who's the queen bee of the social circle because Jenny stepped in when Blair got demoted for sleeping with the best friend of her ex, and then sleeping with her ex. There's a romance blossoming between Nate and Vanessa, which is actually pretty cute. I kind of really like it. And the parents, there's already too much going on with the kids, but like the parents are having a whole shindig of romances, and Rufus is just, poor Rufus, he gets really shafted with his romance department. But there's just now a constant subtle anxiety under each and every event, under each and every episode, because we just have no idea what the hell Georgina's up to. And she's like Blair is wonderful, love her villain side, but Georgina is like a whole new ruthless aspect that is and Serena, due to Georgina being back and Georgina's influence and the stress of Georgina, Serena starts to fall into old ways and starts to have her nights start to turn into blackout sessions of her drinking and doing drugs, but mostly drinking and just disappearing. Also, quick side note, one of my favorite movies growing up was Ice Princess, and Michelle Trachtenberg, I think that's her name. I'm probably saying that wrong. I remember her vaguely from Inspector Gadget and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She was also in 17 again, but we don't talk about that. But I loved her as a kid, and I loved her in Ice Princess. And seeing her in the show as a villain, a wickedly devious, unpredictable, psychotic villain, love it. Give me more. So as episodes go on, we start to learn that Serena and Georgina, like, this was their MO. This was how they were. And this kind of party aspect for Serena is what led to her sleeping with Nate. And when she had her post-nut clarity, she fled to Georgina, and Georgina was already in a hotel room with two guys snorting some stuff and drinking. And Serena freaked out, embellishes in these items, and Georgina is secretly filming her. And the guy ODs. And so Serena and Georgina flee the scene, but Serena is so racked with guilt over this that she exiles herself from New York and goes to boarding school. Blair, Nate, and Chuck push aside their differences and unite to help Serena. And Dan unknowingly starts to get closer to Georgina because Georgina has adopted a new name. I think it's Sarah or some shit, and starts to be the new bestie for Dan. Dan, stop having girl best friends, especially when you keep having crushes on them. Anyways, but Dan starts getting closer to Sarah. Serena kind of allows this because Serena doesn't know that Sarah is Georgina. Serena is just, she knows how judgy Dan is, and she's scared to tell him of like what is actually going on. So she just doesn't. Georgina ends up getting over cocky because she very much underestimated Blair, and she gets caught into a trap set up by Blair with Dan's assistance once Dan figures out who Georgina is, which took a lot of convincing after a questionable night between him and Georgina, but we're gonna ignore that for now. Serena and Dan end up breaking up over all of this, Nate's father ends up leaving and fleeing the country because of his questionable business practices. Jenny gives up trying to fit in with the elite. Chuck and Blair admit their feelings for one another, but just as they're about to go on their European leg, Chuck ditches Blair and sleeps with a hotel employee, and Blair continues on to Europe, very not knowing what's currently happening. And Lily and Bart get married, and Rufus is now single and divorced from Allison because he just couldn't do it anymore. Oh, and Eleanor, your fashion line's doing great. I don't know. But Jenny also gets offered an internship at Eleanor's fashion line, which is fun. So, in case it wasn't obvious, I really like season 1. Why is season 1 so great? There's a big mystery that we have to figure out. Like, number 1, there is a big mystery that we have to try and figure out throughout the show. Why did Serena leave? We think we learn, and then we start learning more details as we go along, and we're just consistently surprised with the details, and it's like so satisfying. The characters are relatable. While we don't all wear $20,000 dresses or have Rolls Royces drive us to school, the petty social drama and the petty high school drama and the social hierarchy and even the complicated relationships between friends and boyfriends and girlfriends and even parents, it's relatable. It's very grounded, and you can relate to the characters in some shape, way, or form, even when they do bad things. All of them. And also, one of the other things is none of the characters are good. All of the characters have their flaws and their good things and their flaws. Nate is pretty basic. His biggest flaw is that he doesn't know how to communicate, and that causes a lot of his issues with his girlfriend, his best friend, and anyone else around him. Serena is pretty selfish. Like, she tries to do good, but she is pretty selfish and self-centered, and even when she's trying to help other people, like, it somehow always turns into about her, and it's not always in her control that the situation turns to be about her, but it's one of those things. And she's also she worries way too much about what other people think about her, especially like her boyfriends or her romantic interests, especially Dan. Like, stop worrying about what Dan thinks about you, honey. Just embrace your full self and hang out with Blair, for Christ's sakes. Blair is scheming and conniving, but if you are her friend, if she cares about you, she'll move heaven and earth to protect you, to get things to benefit you, etc. As long as you don't step on her spotlight too much. Chuck is a red flag, but he's fun. He's pretty great. I like how much he tries to protect Serena at the end of the season. Dan, I hate him. Listen, I know he's some sort of fan favorite or something. I'm not even considering the end of the show. We're not going to talk about the end of the show. The end of the show is abysmal. We don't talk about it. But first season Dan, he's not that great. He's so judgy. And he's such a dick about it. And like, granted, sure, yeah, he like there's some stupid things and there's some weird things happening, but like, he's just a little too much. Like, step off your fucking high horse. Jenny, she's okay. Her character is 14. She makes a lot of dumb decisions that are actually extremely relatable. She's so desperate to fit in. She does what she sees other people doing, but she doesn't have the same money and social hierarchy protection that these other kids have. So she's doing a pretty good job playing the social game with literally no safety net. All of these characters are shitty. All of them are good. And we care about them because they often act the way they do depending on their environment. They all are insecure and they react based on those insecurities. And it's something so deeply relatable that you can't help but sympathize with these characters. That leads to the main reason as to why I think season 1 of Gossip Girl is perfection and the rest of the show is definitely not. I think if it had just stayed a singular season, or maybe somehow, I don't know, I haven't thought about it too much, but maybe gone a different route in other seasons, maybe it would have been better. But as the show continues on into its second season, the relatable motivations, the growth that everyone made emotionally just kind of vanishes, and it goes back to pettiness and ridiculousness, and then characters keep doing the same story arc over and over and over again. And characters like Serena just fade into the background because she was the driving force of season 1, and then after that they don't know what to do with her, so she's just standing there with her hair in the background being like, hello, hi. Like, that's about it. Like, I loved how there's petty drama throughout all of season 1, and then when shit got real, the characters understood and acted accordingly. And even when shit gets real in other seasons, they just keep doing petty stuff and not ever really uniting in the same way. And there's real world, there's some real consequences, there's some real heavy things that are addressed. ED, school suspension, Eric's unaliving attempt, Serena's addiction and party issues. The season 1 feels organic and it feels satisfying. The other seasons, to me, fall flat because after such a deeply consequential and important season finale, season 2 starts right off into who's sleeping with who, into characters getting together that shouldn't be back together, honestly, and grow and other characters acting completely out of the normal and acting and doing a complete 360 in personality. And like, Dan is sleeping with everyone left and right, but also still has feelings for Serena. And Chuck is this simpering mess who we're supposed to sympathize, but we already sympathized with him in season 1. Even though he was a red flag, we still enjoyed him and sympathized with him. But now, like, they're trying so desperately to make him, ooh, woo, nothing he does he's responsible for. Bullshit. Blair loses her bite. Jenny is the most relatable and has the best storyline moving forward. But she's about it. She's the only one that really that continues to grow and continues to evolve and change as she moves, as the story goes. Like, she's the only one. Everyone else just keeps repeating or keeps having like complete character 360s. And again, Dan, I hate you. Season 1 of Gossip Girl was lightning in a bottle. It was brilliant with its marketing. It really latched on to everyone, into like those iconic posters of the reviews bashing the show, and how season 1 took those and really played with it and really amplified the scandalous nature of their show. Its characters were well-rounded and interesting. Its story was very interesting and it made sense. The twists and turns were earned. The stakes felt real. The brilliance of the first season just can't be dulled by the lackluster seasons that follow it, and I just personally love it. The first season of Gossip Girl is one of my favorite like seasons of television out there. But anyways, enough with my rambling. What did you think? Have you seen Gossip Girl? Do you agree with my opinions? Do you disagree? Did you have different thoughts? Please let me know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and if you'd like to see more content like this, please subscribe. Until next time, bye.